This is PNC Roundtable.
Hello, this is Rick DeVore, Regional President for PNC Bank, and thank you for listening to PNC Roundtable. It's on this show that we tackle some of the region's tough issues with people who make a difference.
Now here's the PNC Roundtable.
Welcome into the PNC Roundtable. Hi, I'm Paul W. Smith, along with President Rick DeVore. We're here with a very special topic and a very, very special guest. The topic, Belle Isle Conservancy. And boy, Belle Isle's been in the news so much lately. But this Belle Isle Conservancy, this thing's been around for a while. You remember, let's see, the Friends of Belle Isle, the Belle Isle Botanical Society, the Belle Isle Women's Committee, Friends of Belle Isle, the Aquarium. Well, now the new Conservancy brings them all together under the president of the Belle Isle Conservancy, Michelle Hodges, who joins us on the PNC Roundtable. Michelle, nice to see you.
Great to be here, Paul. Thank you.
And congratulations on a huge, very successful fundraiser that was all around our Detroit to Belle Isle Chevrolet Grand Prix.
Well, and an important part of that success is yourself. So thank you so much for your support of that, as well as PNC's support. We can't do it without a fully engaged community, and you're part of that.
Well, I was happy to be there, thanks to Bud Denker and, of course, Roger Penske and the team. It made for a great beginning for a great weekend for Detroit. And I know, Rick, you felt the same way with being on that island, being around there, the Scott Fountain, seeing everything that was going on Belle Isle. Just really was spectacular.
Oh, it really was. And if you think about Belle Isle, it's pretty much a metaphor for the city. The rebirth of the Belle Isle, I think, is a symbol for the city, and the fountain was just outstanding.
Outstanding. And it's important to remember, even though it wasn't called the Belle Isle Conservancy per se, when you put all of these together, there were friends of Belle Isle. There were people who cared about Belle Isle through thick and thin. But tell us a little bit, if you would, Michelle, about now the Belle Isle Conservancy and how it came to be and the mission.
Well, you are so right about the selfless and wise leaders that got us to this point, because to give up a tradition, as in Friends of Belle Isle's case, that began in 1972, to merge into the Conservancy is pretty significant, and that's not lost on us, and that also increases the responsibility that we feel on our shoulders to lead on behalf of those organizations. The mission of the Conservancy is to protect, preserve, restore, and enhance all of Belle Isle's wonderful assets, and two very important words in that mission statement are for everyone, or I should say phrases, for everyone, forever, which is also was very important to Frederick Law Olmsted, whose DNA is on the island as well. So we take that mission very seriously. We see ourselves as ardent advocates for park users and an armor for the community in terms of protecting its assets and to continue the heritage that was begun on Belle Isle a long time ago.
Maybe, Michelle Hodges, you should remind everyone who Frederick Law Olmsted is.
Well, I affectionately refer to him as Flo, and we go with the flow, our Frederick Law Olmsted. He was America's first landscape architect. He actually invented the field. And in addition to that, he was a very ardent social justice advocate. So again, that for everyone, forever is important. And he didn't want his parks to be just playgrounds for the wealthy. So he has designed most of America's most significant parks. And one that people probably know best is Central Park. Which is 100 acres smaller than Belle Isle.
So there.
So take that, New York, right?
You know, we get slide our punches at New York whenever we can. We talk about Campus Martius, and the ice rink there is bigger than the one at Rockefeller Center.
Yep. But they are our inspiration as well, because Central Park has a $43 million budget and just wonderful people engaged towards that mission.
Wouldn't we like a $43 million budget?
Well, in the 1980s, Central Park was in far worse shape than Belle Isle is today, so it's tantalizing to think about the fact that we just need to go for it.
I happened to work there in the 80s in New York City, and Donald Trump, among others, stepped up. There were individuals that stepped up, much like Roger Penske and Bud Denker have stepped up and helped turn that around.
Absolutely. And Matt Simoncini and Rick DeVore.
Well, Matt Simoncini is, it goes without saying, from Lear Corporation, and of course, present company as our co-host, Rick DeVore. You guys have been involved, and it's important. What are some of the urgent needs that you would say we have for Belle Isle and Belle Isle Conservancy right now, Michelle?
Well, there's more than $330 million of deferred maintenance, and there hasn't been a capital expenditure made in more than 5 years. So the to-do list is daunting but exciting because it's the challenge. Within challenge, there's opportunity, right? So again, we just need to go for it. In terms of the immediate needs, absolutely the core experience is most important. So getting the bathrooms fully operational, getting refuse containers in place, and making sure the pathways are clear and things of that note are done and ready to go. And then getting the fountain running was an actually a spectacular moment, I think, for us all. In fact, I think the phrase that was most commonly said was, "It's gurgling gloriously," and there's nothing short of that. So it's pretty neat. But there's a significant expense to keeping that running, and we know from the DNR that we need to get out and do some fundraising to make that happen, so that can continue to make our community happy and pleased and give them those memories that make Belle Isle such an important part of our heritage. So the conservatory has some significant needs. The Belle Isle Aquarium, certainly we have this amazing legion of volunteers that are working tirelessly there, but the expenditures are significant. So again, we're very fortunate to have this wonderful support from the community, and we just need to manage that and engage that and leverage that and pledge to the community not to waste a single dollar or a single volunteer hour as we work to make sure all of those assets remain whole.
And President Rick DeVore, PNC, it's heartwarming, I suspect, for you, though you've spent time with Michelle as president of the Belle Isle Conservancy because of your involvement. But you can also step back at a moment like this and be so appreciative of her enthusiasm and the way she approaches her job. It makes it easier for you to understand that what you're doing with your support and PNC support, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it really does. And there were, obviously the four groups all had different leaders, but the one in particular that stands out with the passion is Sarah Early.
Oh, absolutely.
And
she's been singing the song for so long.
Yep. Absolutely, and she is a real dynamo when it comes to fundraising and so forth. But I think in Michelle we have that same thing. And as an aside, it's interesting, Michelle, because we were at the press conference with the Penske organization for the Education Day in the casino, and it was kind of cute because afterwards, one of the volunteers said, "You have to come and see the men's room." and he was so, because they just started working, and he was so proud of the fact that the restroom and the facilities were all working.
It gives you an indication of just how far things had gone the wrong way.
Absolutely. And the casino does look nice.
It does.
And that was a great place to have a
press
conference.
Those bathrooms have all been updated, and yep, it's a beautiful place to have your event and mark one of life's milestones.
What's it been like with this becoming our newest state park?
Well, certainly our hat is off to our city teammates. I think those that were working on the ground did a lot with a little, and we're very grateful to that. And the DNR brings a level of acumen and award-winning park management skills to the table that are really unmatched. And it's really been an excellent experience being at the table with them and rolling our sleeves up, because not only do they have that skill set, but I do believe in my heart that they're there for the right reasons. And they're really looking, we keep talking about capital in terms of dollars and cash, but the other capital we're really needing to grow is our social capital. And I'm appreciative for the opportunity to have the DNR as part of that team that's also committed to building that social capital in our community, because the more that we can solve problems together and work together and then celebrate together, the stronger we're going to be and the longer life Belle Isle is going to have. And I really see the DNR as being part of that in a very meaningful way.
When I get asked that question, I've been asked a few people about this issue, about the state taking over the park and so forth. I said, well, why don't we walk down to the Renaissance Center and turn and look towards Belle Isle, and in the foreground, you can see Milliken Park. So if anybody wants to guess as to what it will be like, there's this beautiful park with wetlands, etc., that the state's doing a fabulous job maintaining. And I think a lot of people don't realize that's the state of Michigan. Milliken Park maintains that, so I don't think you have to guess what it's going to be like, whether they can do that. And I think a lot of people that go to the Renaissance Center, go down by the river, don't even realize sometimes that's there. Hopefully Faye Nelson doesn't take exception with that, but of course she's over in a new gig now, right, at DTE. But with that said, and I think that gives me comfort, and I knew they'd do a good job. But
and there's also a structural solution in place, and that's important. We can all say we're going to work together, but we really need to cause that. So through the Belle Isle Park Advisory Committee, we have city and state and community representatives on that are the voice of the community and do create that accountability that I think we all want and need, especially in this delicate stage of trust building and respect building.
It is a delicate stage. People are weary, but they shouldn't be for the same reasons Rick mentions. The state parks are very well taken care of and well maintained and inviting to everyone. We've never heard ever anything other than that.
But let's hit that one, that nail right on the head. I mean, we can't treat these issues as media cycles to endure, so to speak, or we just think it's going to go away any minute now, right? I mean, we really have to look at this as an opportunity to transform the community and really move it forward and again, build that social capital. So we're really looking at grassroots initiatives that are going to make sure that everyone knows they are welcome on that island. It is the Detroiters' park, and they need to feel home there, and that's really essential and important to us.
What do you mean by grassroots initiatives? Can you give me some
ideas? We're digging deep
examples?
Into the community. We're building relationships in the faith community and the neighborhood groups. We're reaching out to many of the thought leaders in the organizations that have been making a difference in the community for generations, and actually going out and visiting some of the places and people that we hear don't feel welcome at the park anymore, and meeting with them firsthand to say, please give us a chance. Right now, it's all words. We can only pledge to you. We can only tell you what we're committed to. But over time, we're going to demonstrate to you. So please give us the honor of your trust and come and join us. And there are some folks that still resist coming on the park, on the island. And I look them in the eye and I say, okay, I'm comfortable with you not coming now. But soon, we're going to walk on that island together, and you're going to feel good about it because of what we've done as a community.
Tell me a little bit more. You just mentioned the Belle Isle Park Advisory Committee and the Conservancy are working together. Tell me a little bit more about that role that they have.
The Belle Isle Park Advisory Committee was created by the governor as part of the lease agreement, and its intended purpose is to advise the DNR on public improvements to the park, master planning, public safety. And on that committee, there are 7 individuals with appointees from the mayor, the governor, and then 1 joint appointee. And the city council as well. Yes, Bud Danker is on that. And then the joint appointee actually chairs the committee, which is myself. So again, empowerment is a gift. It's not something to be squandered, and we really are empowered to make Belle Isle that transformational opportunity for our community, and we take that role very seriously. We tell the DNR, never should we look as if we're one and the same with you. We're going to say what needs to be said. We're going to do what needs to be done, and that's the team that is building and growing as part of that Belle Isle Park Advisory Committee, which has been meeting monthly since January.
Had to kill you, and you can weigh in on this as well, Rick. All of the headlines that came out initially about the law enforcement and the cracking down on people, all they were doing, state police specifically, were enforcing laws that were always there that maybe didn't get enforced. Nobody can blame them for that. But tell me a little bit about any of the law enforcement concerns on the island that you may or may not have.
Well, we certainly, as I said earlier, take that issue very seriously, and we're meeting regularly regarding it. And we wanted to there were several things we wanted to accomplish. One, we looked at the data that was provided by the Michigan State Police officers as well as the DNR conservation officers. And from that, again, needing data to support decision-making, could not make a case that it was oppressive. The ratio between citations and warnings was significant. And we'd been told they were taking an educational approach. Could there be an errant experience here or there? Possibly, yes, certainly. But of course, as a group, we didn't see evidence of that happening. And then having that eyeball-to-eyeball conversation with the people that are really doing the work. There was no indication at this moment in time that there was something oppressive happening. With that said, however, we don't discount the concerns and the claims because clearly we have a perception issue. So we're now committed to overcoming that with this grassroots initiative. And then thirdly, reminding ourselves constantly that we have to fervently monitor the situation because, of course, it can change. But we're at this point, and I say this, I speak for the Belle Isle Park Advisory Committee because we've come to this conclusion as a group that we do not see evidence of an oppressive nature.
Now, with all due respect to the Indy cars, most of the violations were for speeding, correct? I mean, because it's 25 miles an hour, a lot.
Even the mayor didn't. Even the mayor go through.
I think the
zip
mayor did
through
get pulled over.
about 20 over
He
the
did.
speed limit or something like
So
whatever it was.
Is that an example, Michelle, of maybe to Paul's point that it's always been 25, but it was never enforced, and so people were used to that?
Well, I think
Kind
the
of
DNR has been very wise in its disposition that they weren't going to change anything. So as you said, Paul, all the rules are the same as they've always been. So it is now a question of enforcement. And as we all know, it is hard to go 20 or 25 on the island. You do have to control yourself. So it's about education. It's about and we respect our users to know enough to know that we do have the onus is on us to educate them with good signage, with good awareness, so that it's not so easy to break the rules and that you at least know what's awaiting you.
Michelle Hodges is the president of the Belle Isle Conservancy here on PNC Roundtable. Paul W., along with Rick DeVore, president of PNC, and we're talking about a passion, something that you clearly have strong feelings for and love, and a lot of people do. People listening in have great memories about Belle Isle. What makes it especially special for you, Michelle, and some of the fun and little-known facts about the island you could
Goodness.
share?
How long is the show, Paul?
We've got plenty of time left. Michelle's you talk very quickly and get a lot of information in a short period of time. You've already given about 45 minutes worth of information.
It's those nuns at Regina High School,
I
get
had,
it all
I
out.
had IHM nuns growing up. I had to slow down once I got on the radio. But there are some fun facts about the island.
Absolutely. Well, Belle Isle has an architectural, historic, a cultural, and natural pedigree. You don't have to make that case. It's there. And then we've talked about science already today. We have science to prove from the Project for Public Spaces, the consulting firm being used downtown by Dan Gilbert. That's why we have a beach in Campus Martius. So they know our region, but they're outside parties. They're from New York. So it's that third-party affirmation that says parks around the country can only dream of the level of support that Belle Isle has within the community. So that's huge. And I think part of that is because of the tradition. In fact, well, maybe I'll save that one for a minute, but people like to do lots of fun things on the island, and there's lots of neat stories. There's a speakeasy in the Belle Isle Aquarium. The fountain, of course, is such an important part of the heritage. James Scott was such a stinker in and of himself, and he required that this statue of himself be erected before the fountain could be built, and he was not a good man. He was a stinker of his era.
This is
so
kind of the nuns. These are the nuns now. He was a stinker.
Right.
And that's as strong
right.
as she's going to get with that, too.
Oh, but the story I've got to tell, the nuns will not like.
Well, that's all the time we've
That's
got,
right.
ladies
Time
and
to
gentlemen.
go.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, it was fun. We convened a group of our supporters, these wonderful women that have done so much for the island. We asked them each to get up and tell their story, tell their name, and give us their little story about Belle Isle. Well, early in that group, this woman that you all know probably stands up and says, well, I don't know about you, but I went to the island to make out. Well, then the rest of the room continued, and probably about 2/3 of them had all made out on the island. So we just all fell out laughing. And those that hadn't were looking all forlorn and left out. And
What
I
losers,
looked at them.
what losers we are.
Well, I looked at him. I said, it's not too late. You can still go make out on
Yeah, but
Belle
now you
Isle.
have to buy a park pass. Yeah.
That's right. So it's those types of things that create this deep sense of connectedness to the park that I think are why it is so important to the fabric of Detroit.
Well, it is indeed. What about the aquarium, though? And that's important to the Conservancy as well.
Oh, my goodness, yes. If you want an example of community engagement, holy cow, Vance Patrick, Jennifer Boardman, and their crew, they have you talk about passion. There's nobody that beats their passion. And what they've done over the last 2 years, and 2.5, almost 3 years now, is significant. It's now open. We just announced a second day a week, so Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 4. We have partnerships with Wayne State University, so it's now used as a field office. Again, that's the business model side of it. The entertainment side is great, but unless we have pathways to national funding sources and elsewhere through the science and education side, then it's not going to have the viable future that we want it to have. So we're working both those pathways, science and education as well as entertainment, and it's significant. And on the entertainment side, we just raised money to bring the electric eel back. track. So when you're in there, there's a little spark. Each time the eel ignites, the spark is projected throughout the aquarium. So you can go running
great.
and seeing it. So it's
and
those types
and
of...
they're going to keep the batteries fresh in the eel?
Yes.
So that it keeps
Well, it's all solar powered.
touche.
Shouldn't tell DTE. Actually, we're good customers of DTE. Maybe
Yes.
we do want to keep it electrical. Because they've been
keep
great
that eel
supporters.
plugged
We'll leave
in.
the lights on and everything.
And now, I made a joke about having to buy a pass, but eventually we're going to need a recreation passport. And by the way, that's not something that the state police are looking for. That's something the DNR is looking for, and for good reason.
Correct. Yes, the recreation passports are a requirement to enter state parks. We're in a transitional year. It is an $11 investment that does give you access to all parks throughout the state for the entire year. And it's an investment in parks beyond just state parks, including Detroit parks as well, because those dollars then fund improvements at those various entities. So for this transitional year, if your birthday has already passed, technically you will be expected to have a recreation passport on the vehicle of the driver. That process is triggered when you go and you update your license plate.
It's from the little tag on your
It's
plate,
the little
right?
tag,
Yeah.
right. So you get that at the Secretary of State. If your birthday has not passed yet this year, because we're in transition, you will not be expected to have that. And quite honestly, I think in this first year, even if your birthday has passed, no one's going to hammer you in order to have that. Don't tell my DNR friends I'm
No, I get the impression.
advocating for that. But
Yeah.
I think this is the education year. We want people to know what the expectation is.
And that's a bargain.
We don't
11.
Count, we don't count birthdays, do we, Paul? You are?
See, you're lucky then.
I do. I'm very happy to have birthdays.
Right, you're here to have it, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. it beats the alternative
Absolutely.
a lot. And for $11, you can go to every state park in the great state of Michigan. And you know, we have to realize it costs money to maintain and keep these parks in a condition that would make us want to come to these parks. So it's a heck of a deal. But there is a transition. People aren't used to it. And I will say, I'll back you up on that, Michelle. From what I've heard, the DNR officers are being very lenient in this transition year. So
Right.
that's an important thing to note. We've heard about some of the people and notable people, and we should say that Matt Simoncini from Lear, for example, the reason he comes to our mind is because at our last big fundraiser going into the races, he really stepped up for Lear Corporation and put a lot of money into this. God bless him, because Lear Corporation has done this for a lot of different projects. Matt's a Detroit kid. He's a kid from the streets of Detroit. He wants to see Detroit do well, and he's doing everything he can to help. There are other people that we've mentioned, big names, but how can the rest of us, how can folks get on board to help the Belle Isle Conservancy?
We couldn't do it without the community. There's no doubt. We manage more than 4,500 volunteers a year. I mean, that's how we get so much work done on the island. A lot of that is in the forest, which is quite special. A lot of rare and native species are there. So without that sort of support, and that comes just from regular individuals that come in through our website and want to do something for the park, to corporations and organizations that want to do their volunteer days on the island. So that is huge. We now have our full-time volunteer coordinator. Our staff is growing. Erica Hill can put anybody who wants to work, and you will have our undying gratitude. We also ask that people just enjoy the park. Please come to the park and tell stories about it and post it on Facebook and let get the word out to the world what a great asset it is for the community. We always take donations, and again, we pledge to use all of those dollars very wisely. We certainly aren't going to turn our back on that. You can join the Conservancy as a member. So there's a multitude of opportunity to get involved on the island, and there's really something for everyone. If you're a gardener, if you like being outdoors, if you like to hear the Nancy Brown Peace Memorial Carol on at dawn and know you're somewhere special, or you want to work in the aquarium because you have some special tie there, or you know plants and you want to be in the conservatory, there's an endless list of opportunities for people that want to get involved and give a piece of their heart to Belle Isle too.
I'm going to make a contribution so that my little Sophie can come in and see what it's like to be a marine biologist.
She can do
because
that.
that's what she says she wants to be.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know where she got that. I'd like to be a marine biologist. Really? Okay.
Has she ever looked in the mouth of a lamprey?
I hope not.
We'll have her do that, and then she can make her decision.
This would be a good way to break her of wanting to be a marine biologist. So what is the website, and what's it cost to join as a member?
BelleIsleConservancy.org, and we have levels of investment for any level, actually. So something for everybody is there on the island. Excuse me, on the membership levels.
BelleIsleConservancy.org.
Correct.
And we can find all the various membership levels and all of that for ways to be involved. And you depend on all of us.
Absolutely.
It's great to hear about people who are able or in a position to make massive donations on behalf of themselves or their companies, and we appreciate that, as everybody would, obviously, but it's the individuals. And I think it's most important to say what you've just said, Michelle. You want people to come and use this island.
Right.
That's the key here. This is not something that you say, oh, well, I'm going to send a check and that'll be that. We need people to come on the island, as you put it, talk about being on the island and spread the word in social media and elsewhere. And success begets success. We started the conversation talking about the bad situation that they found at Central Park back in the 80s, and I was around when that was the case. It really was in trouble. And here we have a bigger park, a better park, take that, New York, and the opportunity to turn it around and make it be what we know it is, one of the jewels that makes it attractive for people to not only come and visit Detroit, but even live in Detroit.
Right. And we know, and the economic data is there to support that too, that it improves property values, it raises the quality of life. So parks aren't fluff. Parks are significant contributors to the economy. And I've had a number of accomplished individuals approach me and say, if not for Belle Isle, I wouldn't be where I am today. You can grow up great on Belle Isle.
These are people who would make out on Belle Isle?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay.
And the submarine races and all that.
They're the ones that were born because of that.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'm just thinking. I'm doing the math on that, yeah. It's the only increase in population we've had. So
Those nuns are going to be so mad at me.
Well, they are, but I'm going to leave the nun line alone.
But the architecture itself, from that era, if you think of the architecture of the bridge, of the fountain, of the casino, if you're an architect, if you're a building buff, it's also a great place. Even if you're not into maybe botany and so forth, there's some great, just the going out on the bridge itself is
the fountain was designed by Cass Gilbert, who did the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as the Detroit Public Library. The DYC, the police station, and the historic horse stables were designed by George Mason, who did the Grand Hotel. So Marshall Frederick got his start on the island. 1937, his sculpture was dedicated, and that is really what launched his international career. So, and Albert Kahn, of course, too, 110th anniversary of the aquarium and the conservatory this year, and we've all been reading recently about that company potentially suffering. I think we as a community need to rally around that and make sure we don't lose that important part of our heritage.
And not to mention, as we already have 3 or 4 times, Frederick Law Olmsted, or Flo,
yes,
as you affectionately know him. A lot of very big names from the past worked very hard and created this wonderful artistic accomplishment known as Belle Isle. And it's now up to us to appreciate it and to use it and support it in any way that we can. Are there major levels of capital that are needed to be raised? You mentioned in the beginning a 6-figure amount of deferred maintenance, and some of these things are going to be picked up by the state as a state park, but what are we looking at now?
Well, we're going through a strategic plan. We're going through an assessment process right now where we're looking at each asset to give us a better sense of what the order of the priorities need to be, and then we're going to go through a very advanced strategic planning process as well, so we can very clearly answer that question. But the simple answer is yes. We know just to modernize the fountain, we've been told it could be $25 to $30 million. We can only do what we're doing now in the short term, and the primary expense is tied towards staff because it isn't modernized. So you have to have staff on site at all times, and you're constantly running into issues and problems. I don't think anybody realizes what the DNR is going through behind the scenes to keep that up and running. So
that's an astounding figure.
Astounding numbers that are there. And then, we were hoping to move our offices into the police station. That's going to be held off for a while. It was supposed to become a welcome center too. The price tag there is $4 million minimum. The boathouse House is another one that would just be a great community asset, a great event space, a great welcome center as well. You could have a restaurant there. You could rent marine vehicles there. That I'm sure will have a significant number tied to it. The Conservancy restored the roof on the historic horse stables, and that alone was $1 million. And in order for that to become what the master plan calls for, which is a community space, perhaps a children's arts center or other activities underway there, will have a significant dollar assigned to it too. So even though we've made tremendous progress, we have exceptional community support, our work is far from over, and the message should not be because the DNR is at the table or because we had one very successful fundraiser that our work is done and we're on our way, because if we're really committed to this, we can't lose the investment we've already been made by not continuing to invest in the island.
Well, and then let me ask this uncomfortable question, Michelle. We haven't placed ourselves in a position now where individual sponsorship of projects, buildings, etc., can't happen because it's a state park?
We should have all those tools. We're, again, working all those funding models out right now, but that absolutely it will still be allowable to my knowledge.
If you have anything to say about it.
That's right.
Why don't we just decide right now?
That bridge.
Let's just decide right now that, doggone it, just because it's a state park doesn't mean we can't get private monies and sponsorships.
Well, and it's needed too because we now also qualify for other grant dollars that we didn't without state park status. But you need a local match oftentimes or a fiduciary. So without the ability to bring the local,
we know
match.
a guy in the banking business.
Yeah, what's
and
his
you know
name?
that banks are where all the money is. That's right. Somebody
we have
said that once.
A devore in the water, instead of an oar in the water.
Oh, a devore in the water.
Man, you could do a wabi once around Belle Isle.
Very quick.
I knew it was hard to replace Sarah early, but I'm starting to get the
Sarah's not replaced.
I think Sarah.
We need her muscles.
Sarah, I think, is probably very pleased that she has added Michelle Hodges as the president of the Belle Isle Conservancy to be a part of the team to keep this thing going. That was certainly Sarah's dream when nobody was listening, and she just never gave up. And now she's found somebody fabulous to be the president of this Belle Isle Conservancy, and that is who we've just spent this time with, Michelle Hodges. What a pleasure spending time with you, and congratulations. In any way we can help, you let us know, and we'll let everyone know that you can join as a member at different levels. You can go to belleisleconservancy.org, belleisleconservancy.org, to get all the information and anything else from you, Michelle, and then we'll give Rick the final word.
Just such an honor to be here and to be part of this team, and so grateful for that. Still doing the happy dance. Can't believe I get to be part of this exceptional effort. So thank you always for your support, Paul.
Well,
thank you. Mr. DeVore.
Thank you, Mr. DeVore. Rick, if you have any final words.
Well, I think my final word would be simply that go see it. People talk. It's no different than, say, Eastern Market, right? Have you been there lately? Have you been down? Have you experienced it? Because to me, that is, that DNA travels around with people. And you said it earlier, Paul, not just writing a check, but really getting involved. Well, here, you got to go there. And I think that's where the myth busting happens. Where, where you're at a social event, you can say, well, have you been there lately? Oh, no, but, it used to be. Well, we have to all own, taking that out of the conversation, I think.
Yeah, it used to be one thing, but today it really is something. Mm-hmm. And it's only going to get better as long as we are there to enjoy it. Michelle Hodges, our president of the Belle Isle Conservancy, thank you again very, very much. And on behalf of PNC President Rick DeVore, I'm Paul W. Smith. I'll be talking to you on the radio Monday through Friday from 5:30 till 9.